Sir, is my screen visible enough?
Yes, you may go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So good evening, everyone. The topic of my presentation and our research paper today is the Delhi landfills, the grim reality of human rights violations and the bleak future for the children. So I'm Advaita Datta, pursuing Pol Science Honors from the Indraprasth College for Women. And I today, on the behalf of my partner and co-researcher, Aman Kumar, I'm going to present on this topic. So moving on to the introduction of our research paper. So as we all know that the large landfills in Delhi, they pose a great threat to the entire landscape of the city. The threat remains as a threat because of the mismanagement on the part of the authority, both at the regional, state, local, and central government level. The sustainable disposal of these landfills has been an uphill battle. It has been a difficulty because of the lack of adequate compensation and rehabilitation that is to be provided to the people who reside in these landfills. The children and the residents of this landfill, they are continuously being exposed to fumes and pollutants, and they're very prone to diseases like asthma, cancer. And apart from this, they're subjected to social stigma. Like for instance, when a person, an urban dweller, when he comes out to know, when he or she comes out to know that a person is there in the city from the landfill area, from a dump site area, they hold some kind of stereotypes regarding the attitude of that person. So in this way, the people residing in the landfill, their lives get entrapped in poverty, social stigmas, discrimination, and inequalities. So the relevance of our topic lies in the question and on the emphasis that how waste management and reliance on management and authority for the eradication of these landfills in response to the growing public concerns of environmental politics or of mainstream politics have been failing to address the main concerns of education, health, humanity, and other problems like pollution. Now, moving on to the significance and purpose. From an environmental perspective, if we look into the issue, the significance of the study was obviously based on the fact that Delhi, in environmental terms, is already in a deteriorating condition, because we know that the city air quality index is really low, and when it comes to this winter time especially, the smog makes it difficult for us to breathe. We cannot go out without a mask. So the idea is not to increase the burden, environmental burden of an already burdened city. And at the same time, through our research paper, we made an attempt to create a nexus between the environmental concerns and the social problems, and in order to bring some alternative policy solutions to it. So the literature review says that the average lifespan of a landfill, according to the 2016 solid waste management report, should be 20 to 25 years. And the MCD has put this restriction that the landfill has to be 15 feet. But the primary research we have of Ghazipur landfill have shown that it is one of the oldest landfill. Like it has been set up in the year 1984 and has been still in use because of alternative dump sites or alternative, solutions to dump sites. That would be more appropriate to say it like that. And the residences are located within like 10 kilometers and 200 meters, and they face several acute problems, like the Yamuna, for instance, have already dried up. So the Sanjay Lake is the only source of natural water resource for them. But then now the Sanjay Lake is on the verge of facing the same fate, even it is getting endangered. So the present government at the MCD level incorporated the cleaning of the landfill, but the hazards of the landfills still persist. Like we know how landfills are hazardous. But then, landfill has certain like gases, like which are asphyxiation gases, and at the same time they're combustible in nature. The methane and the carbon dioxide and the leachate. This leachate is produced through the anaerobic processes that takes place within the garbage of the dump sites. So this leachate, it percolates the groundwater and it makes the potable water polluted. At the same time, it causes soil infertility. So the UNEP threw light upon this unsanitary landfills of Delhi. And at the same time, the budget 2023 to 2004 released this, made an attempt to make a transition from manhole to machine hole, like through the uses of various tools like detecting sensor sticks, and with the help of Making India setup, and this at the private level and at the governmental level, they have thought to incentivize for the betterment of the condition of the people of the landfill as well as cleaning of the landfill. But then when we go through it from a primary research, and when we look at the issue from the perspective of those residing in the landfills, the reality is quite different and harsh. So the methodology of the paper is that we have conducted primary research on the basis of interview by visiting the dump site and the dwellings. It was research paper through careful comparative analysis of both the secondary data that backed up our by the reality which we saw in the landfill. So these are some pictures. Like as you can see that there are this toilet facilities and everything provided for the workers to work in the landfill, but ironically the workers weren't there. And these were some of the people whom we met, like who were educated enough like to come and talk to us and could give us some viable answers. And we also visited some other groups of people as well, because they just come in groups and they give the answers to the questions. From them we drew certain conclusions of their answers. And then these are the dump sites. You can see the cow feeding on the garbage, and these are the kids who are defying their death and who are defying their own grim fate, who doesn't know what the landfill is causing to them, and enjoying and scrounging from the garbage dumps. So the results and the discussions that we concluded are that the people living close to the landfills, they, from their answers we got that they have been historically oppressed and they have been historically exposed to these toxins. Oppressed in the sense they are the victims of romantic consumerism. They are the victims of people who, the urban dwellers who live lavish lives, produce lots of garbage daily, and victimize the people who do have no part in even producing those garbage. And the communities living around the landfills also mentioned that the basic infrastructure just doesn't exist. Like there's no proper mohalla clinic, no government hospital within like the area. It is located at quite a distance, but then even those facilities were absent. No operational roads were there. On our way to the settlements of Ghazipur landfills, we saw that the roads were blackened by the leachate water that pours down from the landfill garbage. And the interviewees also talked about the schools. There's this MCD public school which is there, and the Ghazipur boys school. But then the enrollment ratio is almost null of the students who belong from the Ghazipur landfill, and who go, the students who goes to those schools have like faced inequality and discriminatory treatment at certain point of their schooling. They have like mentioned that the schools do not operate regularly and they get closed down when there is some sort of smoke built up in the garbage dumps, because they really fear that their houses will be engulfed in wildfire and they will lose the roof over their heads. And regular vaccination drives are not there, and that's why health illnesses are more prone to the children. And then the children scrounge the dumps without wearing masks or any kind of gloves. they do not get the sanitation sprays that the urban dwellers provide their children. I mean, no urban dweller even bothers to go there and provide those children with sanitation sprays and masks and gloves. They just enjoy scrounging in the garbage dumps, but then, as I said, they defy this. They do not know that they are getting infected with bacteria, and they get injured from the shards of the glasses and surgical injections that they find in the garbage. And like there are incidents where certain incidents like this, like getting hurt from shards of glass, had caused the children to be treated with surgery because it had created such infection, because no one provided them with a tetanus injection, no one cared to, no one bothered to. So some policy suggestions which I feel that would be viable in this kind of matter, in this kind of issues, that we need to strengthen the solid waste management. First of all, the rules of 2016, which has to be like improved, and modernization concerns have to be taken forward, and vulnerable communities need to be incorporated to this. And also, as I said, that the solid waste management rules have to be strengthened, because there are this facilities of biomining, there are facilities of waste to energy conversion, all of them. But then waste to energy conversion also creates certain kind of garbage and residues which are not again treated properly. They just add to the waste of the dump site. There is a need to formulate a protective law or policy framework which recognizes the work of the rag pickers. Like, there has to be a way to reduce, reuse, and recycle those waste and make it into some productive sellable items. And there needs to be a continual emphasis on the clearing of these landfills, and proper rehabilitation, relocation, re-employment, and compensation needs to be provided in case the landfills are cleared. With regards to school, the children in the dump pit avoid schools because they're very like happy in earning whatever they get, in earning from whatever they get from the dump sites. So policies can be framed. I'm not saying that primary education should not be given emphasis. Obviously, that is a must. But then policies should be framed in providing them with training on various craftsmen work and bamboo weaving, pottery, such kind of works. Like in Japan, they do that. Post-schooling, like post-school hours, they engage the children in knitting and other kinds of skills, other kinds of work. Because we cannot force children to go to schools. We need to incentivize it through some positive training in skills and other things, so that whatever like their whatever work they do, they can at least produce something out of it, and they buy and sell those things, not the things they get from garbage dumps. This will help them earn in a productive manner through hard work. The schools can also create groups of various students varying in their age groups, and engage them in daily activities like recreation programs and dancing, singing, art, and so on, because this will help those children to coordinate. Because we know the children from the deprived sections of society are likely to engage in crime when they grow up. But then if they learn how to be engaged in positive work, how to coordinate in positive work rather than coordinating in negative sides of crime, they will be able to ensure a holistic growth for themselves. And the most important policy alternative that we need, I feel, is to create a sense of self administration in them. As I told you, laws remain flouted, so at an institutional level, model panchayats can be set up, so that the teenagers or youth, they bring out there and put forth their own problems that they face while residing in this dump sites from a very young and tender age. And because they are the people who experience the hazard from like a first hand experience, we have looked through it from a secondary aspect through their eyes. And women can be also engaged in the self-help groups, and this would help like in localization, trust me. Because if we go to make them literate, that might take a long time. Literacy is there in many of the women, it is there, but then they are expected to stay in home and hearths and in a degrading environment. But then if the women are taught the skills of sewing, weaving, and if those skills are incentivized by linking them to at least, if not the public and private sector directly, at least to the small business run by the youth these days, then this will lead to globalization. That is the linking of global economy to the local economy or the national economy at least. And the self administration is important because this will empower the youth and the children residing in that area, and to thrive in the world outside their degrading environment. In the capitalist world which denies them improvement and betterment of their conditions, this will help them to improve their conditions by themselves and thrive in the world of the capitalist system. And the government should recognize and encourage and appoint an institution level the youth groups, and they should literally encourage the youth groups to take part in such activities, because and a man working in a bank or any public sector or private sector might be exhausted from his day's work and not pay much heed to something happening at Ghazipur landfill or some landfill in remote corner of Delhi. But youth has the vigor. At this stage, we have the vigor, so we can rejuvenate the society. An expert on climate change and geographers and others boards like CPCB must look into these issues, because as I mentioned that even though waste to energy plants exist, but they are actually adding to the problem, not decreasing it. So coming to the conclusion of the entire paper, the thing is the sudden rise in the rhetoric of the environmental politics, which is like, pushing the demands of eliminating this giant landfills for the betterment of the communities. This has to be backed up by some practical solutions, policy alternatives. This has to incorporate the deprived section of society. Simply looking at the environment won't help. We need to look at the society, and that to the deprived section of society. Because recently we saw how, even though we are a G20 presidency, how a harsh treatment was meted out to the deprived section of society, how they tried to cover them with green shades, tried to cover the slum areas with green shades, or at least evacuate them. So all this kind of steps by the administration must be stopped. We need to let them come out and express themselves, so that we can eliminate their myriad of disease, poverty, and betrayal. We can at least correct ourselves. When the need to like develop this are realized, then the landfills can be improved, and they can be eradicated through proper compensation. And so the need of the hour is to save the upcoming generation from facing the same fate as the ancestors who were being buried in their ground, who have faced years of deprivation and poverty and betrayal. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation.